You might be able to tell by the stupid grin on my face that I'm a happy little boy. What we have here today is the next in this beautiful, beautiful series of adult-focused space sets by LEGO, and it is the Space Shuttle Discovery, as you can see. But not only that, because, okay, me personally, I've always known, or I've always suspected that at one point we were gonna get a space shuttle. It was kind of obvious that it was coming sooner or later. What I did not expect was that it would be this big and that it would also include the Hubble Space Telescope. I think that's an amazing bonus. I did not expect that, and I'm so glad they did it because they work so well together, which you will see in just a few moments. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into the review. I'm gonna put this aside right now, and we're gonna start with the space shuttle. Now, the shuttle is not only full of very accurate functions, as you will see, but there's also a lot of small detail that recreates a lot of the technical equipment present on the ship. For example, right here at the nose cone, you can see the RCS block, which is used for maneuvering the space shuttle while it's in orbit. You can see the windshield here, which is printed, and you can see the stickers here on the side. There are a few stickers in this set, but there are also a lot of interesting prints. Let's take off the upper deck so we can see the crew compartment beneath. You have one chair there, as well as a bunch of buttons and lights and consoles used to control all sorts of stuff. You can also see the crew hatch, which is used, the airlock actually, which is used for crew members to go into the payload bay. Of course, they would need to suit up for that since the payload bay is not pressurized. Then if we reattach the upper deck, you can see a bunch more details, some of the other consoles and buttons and stuff, more chairs for the crew, as well as a tiny window right there in the back, which you can use to see into the payload bay. Now here on the sides, there's also another crew hatch, which is used for astronauts when they have to go on EVA. And now let's move on to the payload bay. This is a very big section. It's the biggest section on the space shuttle. You can see these radiation panels on the sides used to dissipate some of the heat that accumulates due to the sun's action. And all of these curved panels on the sides are new pieces, and the shiny parts are stickers. Moving up to the forward bulkhead, there are a few details here. Here's the antenna that the space shuttle uses to communicate with the Earth. You can also see a small video camera right there used for monitoring the payload and the work that's being done inside the payload bay. Oops, I forgot about these here. Yeah, that should be all right. Now, there you can see the small window that I mentioned when we were looking at the capsule itself, the forward compartment, and you have this robotic arm here, which is also known as the Canadarm or the RMS. You can see it also has a video camera on it. It is articulated in a few points, and it's used for maneuvering payloads outside of the shuttle, putting them in, taking them out, stuff like that. Now let's move to the rear bulkhead, where you can see a few more video cameras. You can see a flag of the United States right there. And you can also see the suspension system for the rear landing gear. And we'll take a closer look at that and how it works in just a bit. For now, let's close up the payload bay and let's move on to the interesting part, the part that makes some noise. Of course, the engines. These are the three main engines right here, the RS-25 engines. These were used for ascent only. For maneuvering in orbit, they use these OMS pods right here on the sides. These are used for coming back to Earth and any other thrust that they would need. The main engines do not turn on after the space shuttle has reached orbit. You also have two RCS blocks here on the sides, also used for maneuvering and attitude control, all of that good stuff. And here's a nice little function. When you twist the middle main engine, you make the elevons swing up and down on both sides. They alternate going up and down on both sides. Now above all this is the vertical stabilizer, the tail fin, and this also includes a very nice function. It can split symmetrically like that. Now that is used when landing the space shuttle because it serves as a sort of an aero brake. It creates a lot of friction to slow down the craft once it's approaching the ground. Now the last function, and here you can see that I'm overdubbing this video, is connected to the body flap, this rear section here that can go up and down to adjust the pitch of the shuttle when coming back to Earth. Now if I push it forward, it will deploy the landing train. Look at that. Very nice. Now this is also very realistic because I can push and pull on it as much as I want after I've deployed it. It will not retract the landing gear, and that is purposefully so because even on the real space shuttle, once you've extended the landing gear, you cannot retract it back. You have to land. You also get a stand included with the space shuttle, and it's very nice, pretty sturdy. It locks it into this kind of a landing position. Again, this is not how it takes off. It takes off straight up, almost, to the side a bit. And we have a UCS style plaque included with some technical details right there. Very nice. And now let's move on to the other part of the set, the Hubble Space Telescope. Now this looks so good, it could have even been a set all by itself, honestly. I mean, look at it. It's got a lot of details. This is its deployed position right now, as you can see here. It has a shield for the main lens right there that you can close. It has these antennae that it uses to relay data back to Earth. You can fold those up like that, but they are usually extended, I believe, at all times. Then on the sides we have the solar panels, which you can rotate, but this is where I have a bit of a critique for the way it's built. As you can see, all these long bars on the sides, they rotate independently, and that kind of makes it weird when you try to adjust the solar panels because they kind of tend to wobble about and you have to fiddle a bit with it just to make sure that the panels stay straight. You see how they tend to warp like that? I don't know, maybe Lego Technic axle would have been better right there, but anyway, once you're done fiddling with it, it looks pretty good. There's also some detail on the back. Now, I am not familiar with what all of this equipment does, but it looks really good. And of course, you may have noticed that the entire body of the telescope is covered in these very nice silver, I believe, drum lacquered pieces, which are very, very nice, very shiny. Of course, that does mean you have to be extra careful with this build, just not scratch it and get it all messy and scuffy. Now, we can take the telescope off the stand because I want to show you its other configuration. It can be deployed as you see here, or it can be folded up so you can attach it to the space shuttle, and I'll show you that in a second. Now, these solar panels usually would unroll from the middle part right there. Of course, we can't do that with the Lego set, with the Lego version of this telescope, so they have kindly provided us with replacements. We can take off the unfolded solar panels and we can bring in these two small sub-assemblies which resemble the solar panels when they're all retracted, all rolled up like that. And you just fold those against the body and you have the telescope nice and compact right there. And now we can attach it to the space shuttle, which is done quite easily. It only takes a few steps. First of all, we open up the payload bay, of course. Then we have this small, let me take the robot arm out first. Then we have this small sub-assembly here, this T-shaped piece, which will be used to support the telescope right above the payload bay. You just set it in there. You bring in the telescope. You have to take out this small section right here, which also includes a little circuitry detail, which is very nice. Just like that. And then you mount the telescope on the stand right there. Mount these clips right above, one on each side, or you could only use one if you want to. I'll show you what they're for right now, because you bring in the robot arm, attach it to one of them right there, and you're done. Isn't that beautiful? just gorgeous. I can already see this like just floating around in space. Oh, and I forgot to extend the antenna. Newsflash, I would not make a good astronaut. You also get a small plaque for the telescope as well. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are going to ask if it's possible to completely place the telescope inside the payload bay. And the answer is yes, kind of. You do have to make a few compromises. First of all, you have to take off the retracted solar panels. There's no way around that. You just have to take them off. And then the second compromise that you have to make is that you cannot orient the space telescope the way it would have been, lens facing forward. You have to turn it around and place it just like this. And then we fold the canadarm down beside it, and it all closes up and fits nice and snug. And another thing that I know people are going to ask, is it to scale with the Saturn V? The answer is no, but that's actually a good thing because the Saturn V is at approximately a 1 to 100 scale, meaning that the actual Saturn V was 100 meters tall, and the model here is about 100 centimeters tall, give or take. And the space shuttle in reality was 37 meters long, which would make the Lego model 37 centimeters, but as we can see here, it's actually around 54 centimeters long. So it's a bit bigger than it would have to be, but again, that's a good thing. That way they could fit a lot more detail and more interesting functions into the craft. So I'm not gonna complain about that. As a LEGO fan, and not just as a LEGO fan, but a fan of space exploration and space technology and all that good stuff, I feel very pampered. I feel very catered to. I feel like LEGO is really stepping up their game when trying to please someone like me. It started with the Saturn V, which was an amazing set. It's still one of my top favorites. Then it went on with the lunar module, which was great, and then the space station, which, although smaller, was still a very nice set. And now we get this, and I'm stuck here thinking, what's next? What's gonna be next? What are they gonna cook up next for us space fans? Who knows? But it's looking good. I have every reason to be optimistic right now. I love this set because it has a lot of functions and it gives you a lot of options for display. I think that's very important to repeat here, to reiterate. You can display the shuttle by itself or by itself on a stand. You can have the telescope on a stand. You can have them both like in that configuration that I showed you where it's like being pulled out. You can do it like this, like I've done with the compromises that I've mentioned before. You'd have to do some modifications. But it just looks amazing. I mean, look at it. Look. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. So yeah, I don't know what else to tell you about it. If you have the Saturn V or the lunar lander or the space station or any of the three or all of them, I think this is a worthy addition to your collection. You should definitely consider getting one. That's about it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this review has been helpful to you. And until next time, happy building!